Good evening. I'm Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Goodine, pastor of Church on Wheels Spoken Word out of Deltona, Florida. And this is another edition of Bible Study 2024. Thank you for tuning in tonight. For those of you that are on the airways, thank you all for tuning in. Congregation, thank you all for coming tonight. Not thinking it robbery to take time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Like us on Facebook. Follow us at our Facebook group page, Church on Wheels, Let the Good News Roll. Facebook Live, Jeffrey Goodine. On YouTube, Pastor Jeffrey Goodine. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. Follow us on X, which is formerly Twitter, at Goodine Jeffrey. Instagram, Goodine Jeffrey. And Clubhouse, Church on Wheels Ministry. Tonight we are continuing our study through the book Fasting for a Spiritual Breakthrough by Elmer Towns. And tonight we're going to cover the Esther fast. Now, the book of Esther. The book of Esther has a lot going on in it. But this is where the famous, well, not famous, but whatever. This is where it is said, for a time such as this, that we are all in a place, in a time, at a place and a time such as this, that we're there for that reason. That's why it said in the book of Esther, that's where we get the saying, for a time such as this. In a nutshell, the book of Esther, she was picked as one of the girls to replace the queen, and the king chose her. But she did not reveal her identity. She did not reveal that she was a Jew. She didn't reveal that. So her cousin, Mordecai, I think their relation, Mordecai would not bow down to Haman. He would not bow down. So Haman got mad. And Haman made the king do a decree that all the Jews, because they were considered a group of people that were against the king, and Mordecai would not bow down. So Haman made sure that he would get him. So the Esther fast is for protection from the evil one. Now, protection from the evil one. And we'll see that Haman he had a plot to kill all the Jews, and he finagled and made the king do a decree. And so when the letter came out, Mordecai showed Esther the letter and said, you got to do something. And so Esther said that if you go, that I can't go into the king. There's a rule that the king has, that if anybody comes into the inner court without him calling them, they'll surely be put to death. And and then Mordecai, in a nutshell, tells her, don't think you're going to escape just because you're in the king's house. That when they find out, they're going to kill you too. And all your family and everybody else. And that's when he told her that maybe you were put in the king's house for a time such as this. For a time such as this. So she said, okay. And then she told Mordecai, get all the people, all the Jews, and fast for 3 days. Don't eat or drink day or night. And she said, me and my maidens will all fast for 3 days. And after 3 days, I'm going into the king, and if I perish, I perish. So this was to avert the plan that Haman had. The plan was to kill all the Jews because Mordecai would not bow down to him. And so he was going to kill all the Jews. He was going to kill them all for one person. And so the Esther fast is for protection from the evil one. And in this instance, in the book of Esther, Haman was the evil one because he devised the plan. Now, he spoke bad things about him. He told the king that there's a group of people that are not showing you any respect, that they're not doing this and they're not doing that. He made up a story. And so he convinced the king to write a letter saying that you would kill all the Jews. And Mordecai said he would pay them to do it. So this is the Esther fast. Now, the Esther fast for protection from the evil one. For protection from the evil one. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse. Send me an email at pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. That's pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. I'll add you to the list and you will get a copy of the handout so that you could follow along with us in Bible study. So send me an email, pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. That's pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. I'll add you to the list and you will get a copy of the handout so that you could follow along with us in Bible study. So the Esther fast for protection from the evil one, and it's out of the book of Esther. And this could be like, something happened in the church and somebody didn't get, the respect, or somebody didn't honor them, or somebody didn't recognize them like they thought they should have been, and they leave the church and then they start talking bad things about the church. And they turn people away from the church, turn people against the church. So the Esther fast is for protection from the evil one. The evil one, and the schemes of the devil. The schemes. And usually it's not that person, it is the scheme of the devil. And he uses that person. So this is what the Esther fast is about. Protection from the evil one. So, in the handout, the Esther fast is effective. It is designed to be a rear guard protection from danger and demonic influence. It may be used as a protective weapon against the demonic. The Esther fast provides a means of protection. So you see here that when Esther went into fast, She told Malachi, you get all the Jews and then me and all my handmaids, and we all gonna fast. That is fast for protection. Not only protection from Haman, but also protection from when she go into the king unannounced. Because remember, the rule was that if you went into the king unannounced, you would surely be put to death. And so Esther said, you know, we're going to fast. We're going to fast. And then after 3 days, I'm going into the king. And if I perish, I perish. So the Esther fast is protection. Now, what the Esther fast is not, and this is kind of important because we're talking about demonic forces here. We're talking about demonic forces. So the Esther fast is not an exorcism. We're not playing exorcists. We're not doing that. It is not to exorcise demons from a person. It's not that. It does not break the bondage or addiction a person has because of demonic influence. That should be done through the disciples' fast. It is not designed to heal a person who suffers a pathology because of demonic influence and or possession. And yes, there is demonic influence, and yes, there is demonic possession. Whether you want to believe it or not, you know, it's up to you. So, it is not. We're not performing an exorcist here. And when we talk about Esther, Esther went into fasting for 3 days, not to exorcise any demon out of Haman or to exorcise any demon out of the king. It was for protection from Haman and the protection from the king, because she was going into the king unannounced. And the rule was, if you went into the king unannounced without being called by the king, you would surely be put to death. That's what her fast was about. It is not for daily protection. It is a tool for obtaining protection in events of epic proportion, not from daily temptation and dangers. It is reserved for those crisis situations that are much larger than our need for daily protection. It is an appeal for God to become the rear guard for ourselves or others, protecting us when we are most vulnerable. Now, we could call this a situation of epic proportion, because Haman had convinced the king, all because Mordecai would not bow down to him, that he was going to kill all the Jews. Not just Mordecai, but he was going to kill all of them. The whole race, the whole ethnic group. And he had made the king write a letter to send to all the provinces that on this day that we are going to get rid of all the Jews. And this is considered of epic proportion. Now, not to say that there wasn't a daily protection needed, but Mordecai went to Esther and said, look, this thing is a whole lot bigger than just you hiding your identity. This is a whole lot bigger. So that's why he went there. So that's what the Esther fast is not. When we go into the Esther fast, we are not going in to exorcise any demons. We're not, that it is not an exorcism. It's not that. Because when you look at the book of Esther, when she went into fast, she didn't go into fasting to remove no demonic forces. She went into fast for protection. Protection from any demonic force, which is a big difference. She didn't go in to get rid of the demonic force. She went in fast for protection because it was already in motion. See, when people say bad things about you and they talk about the church and they talk about this and they talk about that, that's already in motion. It's already in motion. You can't change that. And so Esther, the thing was already in motion. She just prayed for protection. And the one protection that she prayed for was that when she go in to see the king, unannounced, that she would live. Because the king had a rule that if you come in to me unannounced, if I didn't call you, you will surely be put to death. So, the Esther fast is not an exorcism. It is for protection. We want God to be our rear guard. We want God to be our rear guard. We want Him to protect us. Protect us. Now, the foundation of this is in 2 Corinthians 2 and 11. And when we talk about 2 Corinthians 2 and 11, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So we need to know, we know when it's him and his devices. See, he may not come at you, but he'll come at your family. He comes at things that are around you. See, when you think about it, when he went into Job, he took everything around him. He took his family, his house, his livestock. He took everything around him. And then God said you can touch him, but you can't kill him. So he touched something around his soul. He touched his body. And when he still didn't waver. So you see, we know his devices. We know the evil one devices. We know it. And here they recognize the evil one's device. That Haman convinced the king to kill all the Jews. So Mordecai knew what it was. 1 Peter 5 and 8, and this is a very familiar text. 1 Peter 5 and 8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. We know. We know. We know. So that's the foundation. That's the foundation. That we need to be vigilant, because the adversary is walking about, seeking whom he may devour. And you must be aware. Now, when we look at the book of Esther, Esther chapter 3 is kind of where it starts. And wait a minute, I had it. Esther chapter 3. This is kind of where it started. And this is when the king promoted Haman. And he was going through the town, the city, and the people would not. And everybody else bowed down to him but Mordecai. And it said, and the king's servants was asking him why. And they were telling him, you need to do this, and he wouldn't do it. And so Haman got mad. He got mad. And then he said, well, he thought about it. He said, well, you know, I'm going to get Mordecai. But then they said, now, they kind of said, now, if you go after Mordecai, now look at all these people. Look at all these people. And then Haman said, you know what? I'll get rid of all of them. I'll get rid of all of them. So that's kind of where it started. And like I say, you know, people talking about the church and the people in the church, and when people leave, they say things and they put that stuff in motion. And they tell people that don't even know, people that ain't never been to that church. People that ain't never been there. Then they put these things out. And it's, you know, it's every church. It's no church is safe. No church is safe. When people leave, they say things about the church. It is what it is. And here, they saying things about Mordecai. They want to get him. So, but then Mordecai, he puts a letter. Mordecai gets a copy of the letter. And he sends it to, gave Esther a copy. Now, when he gave the copy, he was telling Esther that just because you in the king's house, don't think you're not going to be found out. Because when he killed all your family and all your household, it's going to be revealed of who you are, and you're not going to escape. You're not going to escape. So, and when we take a look, and one thing I'd say about this is that they could not stop what was already in motion. See, when people say stuff about the church, when the evil one starts to plan, see, the plan's already in motion. You can't stop that. The plan is already in motion. So you see, Mordecai realized, was telling Esther, the plan's already in motion. You got to do something to head this off. You got to go in and talk to the king. You the queen. Go in and talk to him. And he tells her, don't think you gonna escape. Don't think you're gonna get by. Don't think that you're safe. And then when we look in Esther chapter 4 and verse, really in verse 13 is when he told Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. In other words, don't think you're going to be safe. For, she said, for if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. It'll come from somebody else. But you have a chance. See, but if it is, but then thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. that you and your father's house and all of us are going to be destroyed. This is the plan of the evil one. And then he says, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? This, he's telling her that your being in the king's house and you being chosen as the queen may very well be for a time such as this. That you're the one for a time such as this. For a time such as this. That when we look back and see how she was chosen, and out of all of the maidens and everything, she was chosen, but she didn't reveal her identity. So evidently, she didn't really look like a Jew. She didn't really look that way. She didn't really talk that way, even though she was. I mean, we got that now, where we kind of don't know, you know, if it's a man or a woman. We kind of don't know, you know, what their ethnicity is. We kind of don't know. So he's telling her she may well be put in God's plan, that she would be in the king's house for a time such as this. And that's where that saying comes from. That you came to the kingdom that for a time such as this. Is that you're the one that could save us. You got to go into the king. And then in verse 15 said, then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went and did according to what Esther had commanded him. She said she's going to fast for protection, not to exorcise the demon out of Haman, or she considered the demon in Haman or demonic force in Haman. She didn't fast for that. She fasted for protection. And the protection was that when she go into the king unannounced, that she would not perish. But she had already accepted that if the fast didn't work, that she was willing to perish, even if the fast didn't work. So, that is the foundation for the Esther fast. Now, the prescription for the Esther fast. First, we recognize the source of danger. What was the source of danger? The letter she got from Mordecai stating what Haman had done and what was getting ready to be executed, carried out. So recognize the source of danger. And I put immediate response to danger to keep any danger from threatening you. That's when we part of the Esther fast. When you are informed of the threat, immediately enter into the Esther fast. When you hear the threat come against the church, when you hear the threat come against you, and it's already in motion, then you enter into the Esther fast. Realize the nature of your battle. When you sense danger and direct temptation from demonic forces, enter the Esther fast. She realized that when she saw the letter, she realized that this thing was already in motion. The threat was there. So immediately, what did she do? She went to fast. She told all of them to go fast. 3 days. And then I put here, what the enemy could not do in battle, they do in peace. Just because they left the church, that don't mean, it seems peaceful, but that don't mean that they ain't doing something. See, Haman, in peace, he devised a plan. In peace, he devised a plan. So, recognize whose authority protects you. Rely on God's authority. Remove yourself. That is 1 Timothy 6 and 11. 1 Timothy 6 and 11 and 1 Timothy 6 and 11 says, but thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. And then it goes on to say, fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses. She's getting ready to go into the king and state her case. So she had removed herself from, in essence, remove herself from the queen essence per se, and go in and talk to the king as a Jew, not as the queen. She used the queen moniker to get into the king, but when she's in there, when she goes in there, she's talking as a Jew to save her people. Remove yourself. Resist. You have to resist these forces. That's James chapter 4, verse 7. James 4 and 7 says that submit yourself therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So you have to resist the devil. And then rebuke. Now rebuke in Jude 9. Now that's not a book. Jude is only one chapter, verse 9. And it says, yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but says, the Lord rebuke thee. So when you talk about Haman, she wasn't in there to talk about what Haman and the evilness in his body. She's in there to tell the Lord to rebuke this, protect me as I go in here. Protect me. She's not worried about Haman and all that. She's got to go see the king to state her case. She got the letter. But she wasn't worried about Haman. She worried about going in and talking to the king unannounced. Because that would surely put you to death quicker than what Haman had already put in motion. So you see, when we recognize who authority we are, like she said, she went into fast. Remove yourself from the situation, resist the devil, and rebuke him, and say the Lord rebukes thee. Because see, we can't rebuke him. The Lord has to do that. We got to fight with the Lord. We got to fight along with it, but he don't need our help to fight. We call on him to fight our battle. So we fast and pray for protection. And that's Esther 4:16. Fasting to pray for protection. And that's the main thing about Esther, is she's fasting and praying for protection. And she said, go and gather together all the Jews and y'all fast. Neither eat nor drink. 3 days. He said, I and my maidens will do it also. All of us going to fast. And we're fasting for protection. Now the first thing she's fasting for is protection against the law of the king. See, she ain't worried about Haman. She not worried about that right now. What she's worried about, she wants protection, is that when I go into the king, that I will not perish. But if I do, then I perish. That is accepting that the fast may not work. See, when we fast for to fight against protection from the evil one, the plan may already be in motion. And our fast may not work. Our fasting may not stop the people from destroying the good name of the church. We can't stop the people from destroying your good name. We can't stop that. But we are knowing that if the fast don't work, then I'm willing to accept the consequences. And that's what Esther is said, that if I perish, I perish. But she's not worried about perishing from what Haman has said. She's praying, she's fasting for protection, and told everybody else to fast for protection so that when I go in to see the king, I'll live. That's what she's praying. That's what she's fasting for. She's not worried about Haman. She's worried about when I go in to talk to the king, that he will not put me to death because I'm going to go in unannounced. And I think when we read this, when Mordecai told her that maybe your getting into the kingdom and getting into the position of the queen may very well be for a time such as this. And that was a time of epic proportion. And she was the only one that could do it. Know the limitations of prayer and fasting. Now, I put here Esther chapter 8, verses 7 and 8. And what this is the thing was already in motion. So they couldn't stop it. So some things are not going to change. The people talking about you and destroying your name and all of that, you can't change that. People talking about the church and destroying the name of the church, you can't stop that. Your fasting is not going to stop that. It's just not. But that's not why you're fasting. You're fasting for protection. That when they do say those things, that they won't harm you. That when they do say those things, it won't have any effect on you. That's what the fasting is for. That's what the fasting is for. Because the king had to go in. Now, here, think of it this way. Think of it this way. The letter was sent that everybody gonna get killed. So by the time that letter gets to the outer provinces, there could be emotion. Well, you can't stop that. The letter's already sent. So what the king had to do was the king had to write another letter to nullify the first letter. That's why I say that when you praying and fasting for protection, the plan is already in motion. So you just want protection from it. You can't stop it. It's just protection. And that's what Esther did. You gain power from corporate fasting. And that's Esther 4:16. This is when she said that everybody, plus me and my maidens, we're going to fast. Just everybody who's affected. And I put here a circle of those involved in the fast must be large enough to include those who are affected by the problem. So think about it. All of the Jews, plus Esther and her handmaidens. Everybody is affected by this. So everybody has to go into prayer and fasting. Everybody that's affected. So if they're coming at your family, then your family has to go into prayer and fasting. If they're coming at the church, then the church has to go into prayer and fasting. Everybody that's going to be affected must be part of this fast. And here, all of the Jews that were in the area, in the province, and Esther and her maidens in the king's house. So the circle of those involved in the fast must be large enough to include those who are affected by the problem. So you see, the Esther fast is a group fast. Could be a group fast. More than likely, it's a group fast. More than likely, it's a group fast. You want to fast to overcome spiritual blindness. Help to discern the nature and purpose of the spiritual attack. Now, we know the spiritual attack, and that's 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. It says, but I fear lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. He's talking about those false prophets. That you could be fooled. Well, the Bible said in the last days, even the righteous is going to be fooled because of the simplicity of Christ. See, this thing is simple. We're the ones that make it complicated. It's very simple. Believe in him. Accept him as your Lord and Savior. But we can be corrupted. Our minds can be corrupted by people we put in front of Christ. We give them that same reverence as Christ. And we can be led astray. Now, everybody loves to pick on the Jonestown Massacre. Everybody loves to pick on that. Because that's a prime example of following someone in a Christ-like manner. And so we love to pick on that. It doesn't have to be that. It just doesn't have to be that. It's other things that we put in front of Christ. Why? It's because it's simple. Christ is simple. Christ is not complicated. We're the ones that make this complicated. Christ is not complicated. Christ is very simple. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to get to the Father is you got to come through me. Very simple. Very simple. But we're the ones that put all of this other stuff on it. I don't know. Fast with common sense and not recklessness. We notice that Esther went to the fast. She didn't do it recklessly. She thought about that thing. She used her common sense. She said, look, everybody go fast. I know the importance of this. So you get everybody, I'm going to get everybody, and we are all going to fast. She didn't do it recklessly. And then Ephesians 6, 11 and 17, that's a very common text, put on the full armor of God. Put on the full armor of God. And then when we see Ephesians 6 and then 11, it says, put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So here we see spiritual wickedness in high place. Haman was promoted above all other princes by the king. And he thought there's a wickedness in him. The king didn't see it.